Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Focus Integration's audio notes on the automation arms race. For more information on these topics, please visit our website at focusintegration.com.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we've got this critical stack of sources in front of us, articles, research, technical notes, and they all point to one really unmistakable conclusion. We are at the very beginning of what you could call the global automation arms race. Our mission today isn't just to list off the data points. It's to really analyze what this means for you, for anyone navigating a world where manufacturing speed is suddenly everything. Because this isn't just a tech trend anymore. The central thesis we pulled from, every single source is that the most dangerous, the most expensive strategy right now is just waiting for the right moment to automate.
And that moment has already passed. That's the core realization here.
Exactly.
For anyone who's concerned with supply chains, with manufacturing, with economic resilience, this is just the new reality. Automation is no longer an optional upgrade. It's a survival strategy.
A non-negotiable one.
Absolutely. And it's not just about robots. It's about combining those robots with deep unified digitalization. The sources are crystal clear on this. The companies that delay this, they risk becoming totally dependent on other people for their production.
And they just lose market share.
They will, rapidly.
That sets a terrifying stage, really, because the speed of this race is just unprecedented. We have to go straight to the hard numbers. I think only then can you really appreciate the scale of this gap that's forming.
So, okay, let's unpack this global automation scoreboard.
Mm-hmm.
The pace of factory modernization, particularly in Asia, it's staggering. The data is showing China leading by a margin that is, frankly, rewriting the entire competitive map for the next decade.
It's not just a lead, it's dominance. It's
Right.
established through sheer volume. China now represents about 54% of global industrial robot installations.
4%.
And get this, they're putting over 295,000 industrial robots into service per year.
Every single year. But what's really fascinating, and it points to their long-term strategy, is that their own domestic robot manufacturing has overtaken imports.
So they're building their own tools.
They're building their own tools.
Mhm.
They're scaling their own tech ecosystem. It's about internal control over that entire supply chain.
That ability to build and deploy at the same time is the key insight. And to put that 295,000 figure in, just brutal perspective, let's compare it to the United States. The U.S. installs roughly 34,000, maybe 40,000 robots a year.
So China is outpacing North America by nearly 10 to 1.
10 to 1.
And that ratio isn't just a manufacturing lead. It's a future geopolitical supply risk. It's a colossal productivity gap. It means China is securing its production capacity while other regions are still struggling just to fill basic manual jobs. And if we look at the broader picture, this race isn't only about Beijing. You've got other nations moving just as aggressively. We're talking South Korea, Japan, Germany, Singapore, Taiwan.
The usual suspects in high-tech manufacturing.
Right. But the critical distinction, the thing these leaders all share, is strategic vision. They are not just bolting robots onto 50-year-old processes. They are simultaneously integrating automation and unified digital operating systems.
Okay, let's pause there. What does unified mean in practical terms? Are we talking about ripping everything out, or is this a layer on top?
It's generally a layer, but it's a non-negotiable one. It's about creating a single source of truth for the entire production floor. And that integration of machines and data, that's what creates the self-reinforcing advantage.
So the automation makes them fast.
And the digital system makes them smart. It lets the factory learn. The implication for you, for the listener, is just profound. This isn't about factory size anymore. It's about a whole new economic reality that's reshaping global competition.
The velocity of China's deployment just forces this immediate question then. For everyone else, is catching up even possible? Or has waiting become the most dangerous strategy? Let's dig into the 4 existential risks that manufacturers are facing, because waiting, it seems, is just not an option. Risk number 1 is the cost and productivity gap. This is just, basic economics. Automated regions, they produce goods faster, cheaper, and with far greater consistency.
And that consistency is key.
It's crucial. That efficiency drives down global prices. So an automated German plant might produce a part for, say, $4. A lower automation plant in the US or Europe struggles to break $6. And the global market, well, it doesn't care about your labor shortages.
It only cares about price and quality. And the non-automated plant can't deliver on either, not competitively.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the second hurdle, which is this really intractable problem, the labor void. This might be the most misunderstood piece of the whole automation puzzle. In the U.S. alone, we're projecting 2.1 million unfilled manufacturing jobs by 2030.
Unfilled, not replaced, unfilled.
Exactly. This isn't some far-off theory. You've got a rapidly retiring skilled workforce, incredibly high turnover in these physically demanding jobs.
And just a massive lack of interest from younger generations. The nuance here is so important. Automation isn't replacing workers en masse. It's filling a void, a huge accelerating void that you just can't solve with traditional hiring.
That's it. The grim reality is a factory that chooses not to automate something like palletizing or packaging, they just might not have enough people to run the shifts in 5 years, no matter what they pay. The factory just stops.
Because the people aren't there.
The people aren't there. And that links directly to risk number 3, supply chain realities. We've all seen this big global push for reshoring and nearshoring, right? To bring production closer to home.
To cut down on geopolitical risk, yeah.
But there's a huge paradox here. These new facilities are the ones you build at home. They must be highly automated and digitally connected.
Why is that?
Because if they rely on manual labor, they just can't compete on cost with overseas facilities that, already have lower labor costs and are often highly automated themselves.
So reshoring only works if it's hyper-automated.
Exactly. The goal is resilience. And manual labor, by its very nature, introduces volatility.
And that brings us to the final risk, which is all about internal friction, the paper-based plant problem. This is what happens when you do partial automation. You bolt a few robots onto a line, but the operation still runs on clipboards, spreadsheets, what the sources call tribal knowledge.
And slow, manual escalation paths.
The sources really hit this hard. Machines move at millisecond speed. But humans communicating with a clipboard or an email, that's our speed. The system breaks.
And that friction is what kills your ROI. Which raises a really important question. If automation solves for speed, what solves for the complexity that speed creates?
That is the perfect setup for the aha moment that you see across all of these sources. Automation creates capacity, speed, safety. Absolutely. But here's the kicker. It simultaneously increases complexity. It raises the rate of decisions you need to make, and it just exponentially increases the scenarios an operator has to manage.
And you cannot manage that speed and complexity with a supervisor walking around with a clipboard.
It just breaks.
It completely breaks. And this is where the digital operating system, the DOS, becomes the critical piece. If robots create efficiency, the digital OS creates control and scalability.
It's the layer that manages all that new complexity.
It bridges the gap between the speed of the machine and the cognition of the human. And the sources are very specific about what this OS needs to manage. We're talking visual management, big displays all over the plant showing real-time status,
right?
Connected worker tools that guide people through tasks, digital SOPs, and this sophisticated escalation logic.
So it detects a problem instantly.
And notifies the exact right person with the right information immediately, not an hour later.
It also includes things like maintenance intelligence, so predicting failures, and that machine-to-human communication. So it closes the feedback loops instantly.
Yeah.
A quality issue detected by a camera at one station can pause the line 2 seconds later.
Not 2 hours later when the shift ends and you've made 1,000 bad parts.
Now, a system that comprehensive, it sounds like a massive high CapEx investment. But the sources are pretty clear that the economics of automation they've changed forever. We're seeing lower robot costs, faster deployment cycles. We're talking days or weeks, not months anymore.
And payback periods under 12 months in a lot of cases.
Plus, you have these new models, subscriptions, turnkey solutions, pre-engineered kits. The cost argument for waiting is it's evaporating.
And yet the biggest ROI isn't just from the robot itself. It's a combination of the robotics and that unified operating system. That combination produces exponential returns, not just additive ones.
Explain that. What's an exponential return look like here?
This is the crucial point for the listener. It's not just Robot A doing task X. It's the OS identifying a tiny bottleneck created by Robot A. Maybe it's waiting 1.5 seconds too long for a part. The system automatically analyzes that, generates a new, optimized workflow for the human worker next to it.
And then standardizes that improvement across 10 global sites in 24 hours.
That is exponential learning. That pairing creates factories that learn the fastest, and that is the ultimate competitive engine.
So if the economics work, the tech is there, and the threat is real, what happens to the companies that still wait? Let's run through the predictable outcomes. The costs of inaction.
It's really a cascading failure, and it starts inside the four walls. The companies that wait, they face constantly rising labor costs, and those shrinking labor pools become chronic staffing gaps.
And there's the safety risk, right? Manual repetitive tasks create injuries.
Absolutely. Which leads to penalties, higher insurance costs, all of it.
Then there's the external reality. Competitive irrelevance. Your customers need stable, scalable suppliers. If you can't scale production predictably, you lose that big customer.
And you just have higher production costs, period.
Yeah.
Your plant can't match the throughput of your competitors.
And when demand surges, forget about it. Their manual systems just crumble. They can't flex.
Which leads to slow problem detection. A paper-driven plant might detect a failure hours, sometimes days too late.
After a whole shift of bad parts has already been made.
Exactly. Which means higher scrap rates. The quality issues just spread without any real-time feedback. You're wasting material, time, margin, and what's really sobering is the time pressure. By the time that manual plant finally tries to catch up, maybe installs its first robot, its competitors have already accelerated their own innovation. The gap doesn't just widen, it becomes insurmountable.
So what's the playbook for the winners? What are they deploying right now? They're automating the dirty, dull, dangerous stuff first. Palletizing, packing.
Deploying AGVs, those autonomous mobile robots, to get rid of forklifts.
And they're putting up those large format digital visual boards everywhere to communicate status to everyone at once.
They're digitizing their standard operating procedures, getting rid of clipboards entirely, using AI for quality inspection, and critically, they're building the infrastructure, private 5G networks, edge compute, to support all that real-time data flow.
These aren't optional upgrades anymore. The sources call them survival strategies. So we've covered the speed, the risks, the solution. Let's synthesize this. What is the ultimate outcome of this arms race?
At the end of the day, the future of manufacturing won't be won by the biggest factory or the one with the cheapest labor. It won't even be won by the one with the most robots. It'll be won by the factory that can learn the fastest.
And that learning.
It requires real-time visibility, standardized digital processes, and that seamless human plus machine coordination that the digital OS provides.
That's the synthesis right there. The only competitive combination left is robotics, connected workers, real-time data, visual systems, and a unified operating platform. Waiting is risk. Waiting to digitize is decline. The automation arms race has already begun. Now, building on that core idea from the sources, that the edge comes from the speed of learning and from digital processes, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought. If entire global companies are prioritizing building these instant digital ecosystems, not just installing a few machines, the question for you to think about is this. What essential piece of tribal knowledge in your own professional life, that undocumented workflow, that handshake agreement that only you and two other people know, is acting as a bottleneck right now? And what will be the competitive cost if you delay standardizing and digitizing that process immediately?
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Focus Integration's audio notes on the automation arms race. For more information on these topics, please visit our website at focusintegration.com.